Hey, Marc, Millan here. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Today's Bible devotional, I wanted to go to the Old Testament and take a look through the book of Leviticus. Yes, the book of Leviticus. I don't know if you've had a chance to read through the book of Leviticus. For many people, the Old Testament has quite a number of books that can be difficult to read. So I will acknowledge that there's stuff in there that's really, really hard to read because it seems so ancient and irrelevant. But there's something in here that the Lord deposited into my spirit quite some time ago. And every once in a while I go back to it as a reminder. And I hope that it can help you in your worship and in your connection with God. So we're going to be taking a look at Leviticus chapter 6. So if you want to turn there, I'm going to read you some verses starting in verse 9. I'll give context and then I'll share some thoughts. Leviticus chapter 6 verse 9. I'm reading for the NASB Bible just in case it reads differently from yours. Command Aaron and his sons, saying, "This is the law of the burnt offering. The burnt offering itself shall remain on the hearth on the altar all night." The hearth was the top part. When the altar was built, they would build, it's almost like a grill, if you think about it, a barbecue grill. The hearth would have been that top part where you throw your steaks down on. So the burnt offering itself shall remain on the hearth on the altar all night until the morning. And the fire on the altar is to be kept burning on it. So you have the altar prepared, the offering goes on the hearth or the top part of the altar, but the fire within the altar has to continually burn. Does that make sense? So it's like keeping your grill burning even though you've cooked a few things on it. Verse 10, the priest is to put on his linen robe, and he shall put on undergarments next to his flesh, and he shall take up the ashes to which the fire reduces the burnt offering on the altar and place them beside the altar. Then he shall take off his garments, the priestly garments, and put on other garments, and carry the ashes outside of the camp to a clean place. The fire on the altar shall be kept burning on it. It shall not go out, but the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and he shall lay out the burnt offering on it and offer up in smoke the fat portions of the peace offerings on it. Verse 13, fire shall be kept burning continually on the altar. It is not to go out. Obviously, the altar was where the sacrifices had to be made, and there were 5 offerings. There was the burnt offering, the peace offering, and there was the fellowship offering, there was the sin offering. 3 of them were voluntary. I won't go into those details, but the important thing is that God wanted the fire to continually burn. Now, if you go to the New Testament, the scriptures say that our God is a consuming fire. And the offering represented from all 5 of them is really Jesus. Jesus became the offering, became God's offering for us. And so as long as there was an offering burning, and as long as that fire was burning, an offering could be consumed, which meant that the people were covered to have a relationship with God. So I want to just kind of cover that whole idea right there to simplify that. Now, the ashes is what I want to draw your attention to because that's what we're going to talk about today. The idea today is removing yesterday's ashes. Removing yesterday's ashes. Whenever the offering would be put up, the priest had to take care of it. The priest would receive the animal, he would prepare the animal, and then he would place them on the altar. The fire had to burn so that the entirety of the offering could be consumed, and when the entirety of the offering was consumed, it would leave the ashes. Now, if you don't grill much, or if you don't use charcoal for grilling, I have a grill, and it's a gas grill. But I used to have a charcoal grill. And so if you use a charcoal grill, you know that after you've used the coals for a while, and after you've grilled on it for a while, the bottom part of the grill can become pretty congested with the residue of the meats or whatever you were cooking on there, and then the coals they just kind of to disintegrate, and they become ashy, and you have all this stuff. Well, interestingly enough, maybe you didn't know this, but ashes are one of the ways you can put out a fire. Like, it's good to have maybe like a little bowl of ashes, or if you have sand, sand is a great way to put out a fire. It's a quick way. Ashes can put out a fire very, very fast. The other thing that ashes do, which is interesting, is they steal moisture from the air, and they kind of like clog up or absorb oxygen from fire. So when you hear God saying, "Let the fire burn continually," you have to kind of tie that to the ashes a little bit. If the ashes are there, they're going to prohibit, or they're going to compromise the brightness and the vibrancy of that fire. God wants that fire to continually burn. But if the ashes remain, it robs the fire of oxygen, it robs the fire of what it needs to breathe and flow and really burn. So, how do we tie this together for us? Well, yesterday we bring ourselves to the Lord as a living offering, right? And what I did yesterday, or what I just did before as an offering to God, gets consumed by God, gets received by God, and then those ashes remain. It's so important for you and me to remember that the next thing I go into, or the next thing that I do, I can't live off yesterday's ashes. Whatever that offering was the last time, I can't live off of that. I got to clean out the ashes. I got to ask God, I gave that to you. You consumed it. You received it. And it's yours. And now you're asking me to do this next thing. And so I can't live off of yesterday's ashes. And that's what I want us to process today is, have you cleaned out the ashes from yesterday's offering, or from your last offering, so that the next offering you bring to the Lord will be fresh? God wants to reveal the pureness of who He is in us and through us. And that's what the fire, I think, represents, because Christ now lives in us, Christ the hope of glory. That fire burning within us, He wants that to be vibrant, and He wants it to glow, and He wants it to be radiant, and He wants to show off who He is in you and through you. That's why He created you and gave you gifts to be an expression of who He is. But if those ashes remain there, they're going to rob that fire of oxygen. They're going to rob that fire of its ability to grow and be vibrant and to be seen. So God's asking us to remove the ashes of yesterday, so that today we can offer Him something fresh and new that everyone can see and experience. May the fire of our hearts continually burn for God, and may that fire be seen through others. May we always remember to remove yesterday's ashes, or our previous offerings' ashes, so that the offering we bring now can be fresh and new for Him, to give Him glory, that He may be seen in everything we do. I hope that you can receive that from today's little Bible devotional. Until next time, from my heart to yours, take care.